What's up, people? Mr. B here for Yard Media's Jamaica Mix program. And today, enough things are happening, so we're gonna jump in right away. We see the Jamaican government, well, the Jamaican Parliament has basically taken on a different complexion this week with the start of the 2026-27 budget debates. And it is going to be a challenging year. On top of that, there is the issue of the departing Cuban doctors. That has been a story in and of itself, because there is a tremendous amount of fallout that is coming the government's way as a result of this. We're gonna talk about that. You know, it is a topic that it's going to be very difficult to disengage from, certainly in the short period, because of the impact that this has already started having on the Jamaican population. So we wanna take a stab at that as well. Among a multitude of other things, there's war in the east, war in the west, war don't assault, war up north. The big man always say, everywhere is war. I said there is news flying about, rumor it seems, about the Israeli president has been termed. I know that is he has been a target, certainly by the Iranian opponents, but there is no confirmation of that. But nevertheless, that war is producing a lot of deleterious effect on all of us everywhere else. Gas price gone through the roof, and of course, so when gas price go up, everything go with gas, because listen, if you buy a loaf of bread, the gas price will reach you to that. And we're going to talk about that as well. But this program, we try to focus mostly on the issues impacting Jamaica. And, the whole idea is to keep the conversations going from a Jamaican perspective, that, keep people in the know in terms of what is going on. Jamaica is home to more than 2.7 million people. Another 2 million and change live outside of Jamaica. And so for those especially who are outside, programs like this help to keep the conversation going, keep people in the know, and so on. But the first thing I want to take on, though, is this budget debate. Now, as I had indicated in an earlier program, that the budget thing had started, and so Jamaica had announced an $18 billion tax package, partially due to the effects the island suffered from Hurricane Melissa, and the fact that the hurricane has basically claimed just about a third of the island. And claimed meaning the damages were not significant. Most of the western end of the island was basically put out of commission, or tourism infrastructure damaged, road infrastructure, housing infrastructure severely compromised. And the issue of some 30% of the country's gross domestic product has basically disappeared with that. And so the government now need to find a way to make up that slack. And, against the background of having stated no new taxation, it would appear that those days are behind us, because the government now has to go the tax route to make up the difference. There was also the view that the government had, by virtue of its demonstrated fiscal prudence over the years prior to the hurricane, was able to negotiate some financing to cover the gaps coming out of the losses with respect to the hurricane. And the Jamaican government had successfully negotiated some just under $7 billion worth of coverage financing, but a good 50% of that money is money that had not been fully secured. So the option would have been for the country to try to make up that shortfall in respect of getting the taxes. And we were always between a rock and a hard place. So taxes coming through at this point in time is not going to look very, very good, certainly out of the pay packets of a lot of Jamaicans. And so this is the challenge that now faces us as a country as we move forward in the 2026 year. Now, I see some discussions going on in the Parliament with respect to how the tax has been levied. That you see where the PNP's Damien Crawford was taking the Minister of Finance to task about a disproportionate tax levy placed on sugary drinks, things like bag juice, where he was contending that the tax on bag juice pushes the price up some 31% relative to something like a iced coffee from the imported Starbucks brand that now operates in Jamaica, where the tax differential is some less than 2%. Reasonable argument, again, the whole thing about taxes is that it has a disproportionate impact on people at the lower end of the consumption scale. And I think the critics of the government's position has always been that it is the people at the lower end of the economic scale who is going to be severely affected by this particular tax package. Because, in other words, poor people consume sugary beverages more than people at a higher income earning bracket. And so while people contend that this is, as one friend of mine looked on it as what they call a sin tax, the trouble with sin tax is, which you usually see that being placed on things like cigarette and rum or alcoholic beverages, is that it does not diminish consumption. And so maybe it's the best way to collect your taxes. You go to something that you figure the consumers are not going to necessarily want to do without it. But that has been the debate that has been rolling through. The other thing that came out of the initial salvo of the budget debate was the minister making an argument about putting taxes on foreign shoppers. In other words, what has developed in Jamaica, certainly over the last 5 to 10 years, is this business of Jamaican consumers' ability to purchase goods outside of Jamaica that are shipped, and these are consumer goods. We're not talking about people who are importing goods for resale, but people who are buying goods on Amazon and on all these online shopping platforms and have them shipped into Jamaica. So the question that it begs is whether or not these goods aren't being double taxed, because the feeling is that based on how you make some of these purchases, especially if the supplier doesn't have an international operation where the tax is usually weighed, because with certain international houses, you're buying goods from them for delivery into Jamaica, there is no sales tax at the source. And so the government is saying, well, we are going to put on our tax on these items. And the minister is making the claim that these types of shopping facilities negatively impact businesses in Jamaica. What do you think about that? Tell me what you think, because I'm a little dubious as to the veracity of that information. I don't believe that persons who will purchase goods from an Amazon, for example, or any of the other overseas major retailers, that their sales is having that significant a negative effect on Jamaican shopping, because the bottom line is that the people who can afford to participate in that kind of shopping, that they do so because that's what they've always been doing. And the fact that traders in Jamaica, especially the big department stores, have been in business for years, I am curious. I'd love to see the statistics as to how that would be impacting their businesses. The fact is that the government have every right to look for every crevice and corner that them can use to drive the tax package that they need to pull in. And so they make the argument, my view, that here is a window and you're going to tax it. But to say that you're using it to deter people from purchasing goods overseas, it's a bullshit argument. That's my view, right? I think sometimes our politicians, some of them are just a little too bright, and we sit in our ivory palace, and we look down on the minions who are the members of the population, and you feel you can run any kind of crap past them, right? The reality is that the tax package that the government is announcing or has announced and is now in the process of implementing, by virtue of having the issues discussed in Parliament, it says that this is where we're going, but to phrase it as if this is going to these businesses put Jamaican companies out of business, I don't know how that go. Tell me what you think, right? I just think the argument is a little weak. Because there's very little justification behind the argument that the minister has made, and I would be happy to feel a feedback from you guys out there as to what your opinion is on this thing, right? Now, let me take a look at the tax package for 2026-27. Minister Favour Williams tabled, and it's looking to garner some $29.4 billion in new taxes. A lot of Jamaicans not going to be very happy with that, because, of course, the government has always maintained a position that it's not bringing any new taxes to bear on the Jamaican consumers. 29.4 billion in new taxes to address fiscal gaps, largely focusing on digital services and consumption. while increasing the income tax threshold to 1.9 million with effect from the 1st of April 2026. Now, let me see if my arithmetic, I don't know how good my arithmetic is, but 1.9 million, that's how much money that a month, how much money a week. I mean, a tax break on the pay package is always going to be welcome. And so, in all fairness, the taxpayers can say, or the government rather, is always going to be able to say that it kept its promise, right? 1.9 million, that's $158,000 a month. And we could say, oh, that work out divided by 4. That's, call it $39,500 a week. I have no problem with that. Me believe that people who earn under 3 million, 2.5, 3 million shouldn't pay the income tax, because they're going to have to pay back the taxes from the consumption side anyway. And the population had already been overtaxed. So raising the income tax threshold to 1.9 is a good move. The only downside is this raise in the tax threshold it puts more money in the pocket of those people who are earning up to that cap, right? And paying taxes on it. So it put back a little money, a little more in them pocket. But of course, if you're earning $15,000 and $20,000 a week, that not gonna save you, because what you really need is to be earning more money. And so, but the government really does find itself between a rock and a hard place. Now, it is with respect to the digital services tax. That is a bone of contention. GCT will apply to digital services and intangibles. That means streaming, shopping applications, ebooks, and so on. That's going to be a big leap, because we have literally danced into the tech age, where this is the direction that these services have gone. And it's one thing to say that you're opening up the market, but the taxes, that's going to be a pill to swallow. Alcohol, there's a special consumption tax that will take you on alcohol. May 1st, that start. $1,400 Jamaican per liter. Cigarette, I will get a $20 a lick per stick. You could have, $3. They've increased the tax from by $3 to $20 a stick. So, and of course, we talk about the sugary drinks. And then there is the tourism and corporate changes. Concessional GCT rates on tourism activities gonna move from 10 to 15%. Me think you should have moved that to about 25%, because tourism now really benefit Jamaica in a significant or as meaningful a way as Jamaicans or the political class likes to make it. We give these hotels a whole slew of tax breaks and tax concessions, and only about chop and save out of every dollar staying in Jamaica from tourism. The tourism workers, for the first time in years, I mean, they've been out for a long time, right? Back in the 70s and so on, you used to see that, and the early 80s, strikes were commonplace, and then after a while that disappeared within the hotel sector. Well, we're back there, because most of these hotel workers now really make no money. And then, of course, there's the environmental protection levy. But the government have a job to do, where you have to find the money. And criticisms of the government tax package any which part the government go maca or go joke them, right? Any which part, because what is happening is Jamaica is a consuming society, right? And so if we while we do have a fair level of manufacturing activity, you know, the level of this manufacturing activity is not driving for export, if you will. And so we are, as I said earlier, a consumption based society. The downside is that what drives or keeps that rolling is better wage rates. And Jamaicans do have a problem where we are among, with the exception of Haiti, we are among the lowest wage earners in the Caribbean, which is one of the reasons why we have the problems that we're currently having with healthcare. Well, it's a problem that has always been there, but it has now been aggravated by the fact of the United States government literally reading the riot act to the Jamaican government. I mean, most of the people come after, oh, thing, but the US government has literally issued an ultimatum to the Jamaican government. And maybe it's a good time to take on that discussion, because it has been going the rounds, and there's just no way you're going to be able to escape that. We have a diplomatic row between Cuba and Jamaica. The problem is we were going to have a diplomatic row one way or the other. I lived through the 1970s, and I remembered the days of the Manley administration and its constant antagonism, the antagonistic relationship between the Jamaican administration at the time and the U.S. administration. I think during that time it was being led by Jimmy Carter. And while it was not as aggressive as what we're currently seeing, it was an antagonistic relationship. Mind you, Michael Manley did come back with his second coming in the 1989 after that election. I don't know if you want to call it an apology, but he stepped away from that aggressive position and conceded that the position that he took then created problems for Jamaica. I see a lot of people on social media, we trying to argue against that position. The trouble that a lot of these people within that social media platform seem to have is that they're not appreciative of the fact that both things can be right at the same time, right? The fact is that Manley is conceding that he made some errors, but at the same time, what he was attempting to do is to use his term, to stand on his feet, to defend and maintain Jamaica's position as a sovereign nation. I remember Henry Kissinger journeying into Jamaica to have discussions with the prime minister at the time, when Cuba had sent troops to Angola, and to tell Manley that you can't support him. And of course, Manley basically tells Kissinger that we are a sovereign country, and Cuba is themselves a sovereign country. And he reminded him about the relationships. The problem with a lot of Jamaicans trying to have this conversation is that they don't have no knowledge of what the circumstances, the geopolitical issues were at the time. And so a lot of people are taking 2026 experiences to assess the behavior and the responses in 1972 to 1980, if you will. And that's kind of crazy. I think we need to appreciate, and I use the term, that the two things, it's not a case of one being right and the other being wrong. The two things can be right at the same time, but so it becomes a question of the choice that you want to make, right? Because the role of our political leaders is to defend the sovereignty of our country. The Prime Minister of Jamaica today, Andrew Holness, is attempting to do that. We may argue about his approach, which there are some aspects of his approach that I certainly, it don't find favor with me. And since we mention it, it's worthwhile, disseminating it at this point in time. Keep in mind that Jamaica is an independent country, became independent in 1962, and so where we are today, we are heading into our 64th year of independence. The comparison between the two leaders, Manley and Holness, it's a comparison that can be made, but there is degrees of fairness or unfairness with the comparison, because the circumstances of the two period, right, makes a significant difference, one versus the other. We are in a geopolitical environment today where the Trump administration is, and they're not doing anything differently from what the American political administrations have always done. They are going to defend what they believe is their interest. In fact, the Caribbean falls under the sphere of influence geopolitically of the Americans. And so what they're essentially saying is that anything in this region, we can't go down Europe and try to, usurp the authority there, because there are bigger juggernauts in those waters that are already juggling there. And then, so what they're doing is looking at what we call the low-hanging fruit, which is the Caribbean, and they're picking those low-hanging fruit. Now, we may argue that if the Americans are going to say to Jamaica and some of the other, states in the Caribbean, because it's not a Jamaica thing, right? It is important to learn. I see where Guyana is now finding themselves in a position where the Cuban government have literally recalled the doctors there. In Jamaica, that wasn't the case. The Cubans never recall them doctors. The government of Jamaica terminated the arrangements because of how it has been set. In Barbados, the Barbados government is saying that we pay these doctors at the same rate as we pay doctors in Barbados. And so, and we pay them. So the argument raised by the Americans about human trafficking does not apply, because the Barbados government also said to them, you can't take away the people in passport. The people free to move about. They're here, they're part of the exchange program. And most of these Cubans are going to relish the conditions of living elsewhere in the Caribbean other than Cuba. Cuba under pressure. And so the question that it begs is about how we manage diplomacy. Now, for me, I'm curious, because I see where the when the announcement was made, the Prime Minister last week this time was in Barbados, was in St. Kitts, Nevis, and he mouthed a very stout defense of the Cubans. Oh, we depend heavily on the medical services, da 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 da, and it gave the public the impression that, well, we're not going to get the Cubans them walking papers because we need them, and we do. Only to find that within a week of those pronouncements, you are now announcing through the press that why the Cuba program done, because there was differences between the Jamaican government and the Cuban government in terms of the negotiations. Now, my view is that the Prime Minister angled that bad. Business who want vex with what I say. Prime Minister angled it bad, right? Because you can't chew one side of your mouth, tell the country that the program is going to remain, and then less than a week later, your foreign minister is going to say, or you come out and say, no, boy, the thing, we have to, the Cuban government not to work with the arrangement, so we try to negotiate. And so the program over. My belief is that sometimes we just need to man up. Prime Minister needs to just man up and make an address to the people of Jamaica. Because are you the leader in a boss? Are you in charge? Are you is the Prime Minister? You can't send Kamala Smith to come tell the people thing. She angle the thing at the far, but you are the leader of the country. And your job, Mr. Holness, is to put on your big boy underpants and come in front of the people of Jamaica, on the TV, the radio, social media, everybody, and tell the people the full 100 as to Wagwa. That's my view. The full 100. Me see where Tufton him now I talk about, oh, the Cuban eye care program is going to continue. And this morning, the media down at St. Joseph Hospital, where a whole heap of that eye care thing take place in a Kingston. And the people them a turn where the patient them because the doctor not dead. So the way all Jamaica angle this medical thing, we look like a set of idiot. Me I say it. We look like say, it's like you go a man here if you go beg him some dinner. And instead of normally you'd get a little, a good size whaler dish of food. And him just give you a little saucer with 2 little grain of rice. Right? It's like I beg people something. Jamaica bigger than that. Right? My personal view, let me make it clear, because at 50 years this thing are going, 52 years to be exact, right? And that we, and granted we're not alone, because the whole of the rest of the Caribbean have been doing the same thing. What these Caribbean leaders have been doing is under-investing in the development of their countries, right? And so the few people who make it through the system as doctors and nurses, them look around and them realize, boy, the money where we make down here, so now say nothing. And the first opportunity them get, them are the spot, right? Leon is asking if there's a template to deal with. Leon Ramsey, have not, here is the thing, my brother. Diplomacy is not something that you get up out of your bed and learn. If you're a politician operates in a diplomatic sphere. You go to school, go learn how to deal with this, right? One of the problems we have in our that has become a feature of our existence is that a lot of our people find themselves in a political positions and have no preparation for the jobs that they're going to do. And so either them afraid to face the music, or you feel you have to lie. Your responsibility is to deal with the thing that is in front of you. You can't tell Uncle Sam, say, them can't tell you what to do. Well, you can. But the question is, are you going to be willing to deal with the repercussions of that? And so this is, to answer your question about the template, that is where you create, the template is that we have a population that as a politician and political leaders, you need to respect the people of your country. And that respect requires you to level with them, right? If me know say, me will lose my job, don't give me the impression, say, boy, we're going to just send you home for 2 days and then you know about to call me back. Tell me and make me deal with it. Jamaica people are resilient enough. Jamaica people, yeah, we're going to suffer, but at least people know what is coming. And then we can work out now how we're going to deal with it. And that is my problem with watching these untrained, immature, selfish political hacks in the way how they deal with the people of Jamaica. Right? I mean, I care who. I could have Michael Manley, I could have Jesus Christ, and the same way I look at it. Because guess what? Mr. Holness is the Prime Minister. I don't know Holness in a politics from the 1990s. I know yesterday in a politics. Holness come up under the hand of Eddie Siaga. So I understand that too. Right? No other politician had to deal with negativity or was responsible for more negativity to Jamaica than Edward Philip George Siaga. None. But him navigate those waters, and Holness was under Fame Fractal when him come in a politics. Him in a politics long enough now, from the 1990s, Holness in a politics, 1993, 94. Right? Holness in a politics now, ago about 30 years. So he's not a neophyte. And the first rule is respect your nationals. Respect the people of Jamaica and talk to them. Tell them the truth. Right? You don't have to tell no lie. Listen, the people of America are telling us, boy, if we don't do this, this will happen. Right? And the repercussions of having to deal with it, this will happen, is far, far greater than the problem of what I have to face in respect of the reduction in medical services. Say that. Because Jamaica people are not idiot. Eh? Jamaica people want the truth. And that's what we have leadership for. And then, you know, we need to go sit down with the opposition. If Mr. Golden don't want to come with you when you call him to have a talk, well, the two of us sit down and hammer out a program as to how the country is going to address its medical problems. Because there is no PNP Jamaica and JLP Jamaica. No. There is Jamaica. Right? Election done almost nearly 6 months ago. Election done. We're not in a damn election right now. What we look at is how we can make things work for the betterment of the people of Jamaica. So when me see Mr. Tufton I tell people about eye care clinic I go open and ray. You can't turn the people in an idiot. If you don't know, you just don't know. You keep your damn mouth shut. And that is why the Prime Minister need to have addressed this thing from the outset. Tell me if you think me wrong. Mr. Leon Ramsey, tell me what you think. Am I wrong? Right? Because I saw me look panic. Right? Me believe that as big man and big woman, you put on the big man and big woman drawers and you deal with the problem. Right? We're going to come under some pressure, people of Jamaica, and, you know, bear with it. Yes, people have medical thing, and then you raise an appeal to a whole heap of people in America, yes or no? And nurses who are looking for retire, are them retire already? And them would have come do a turn in Jamaica if you make it worth them while. The one thing with Jamaica people, you know, is that if you appeal to them, no matter how you hear we are going like we bother with tough and thing, a proper appeal, an appeal properly placed to Jamaicans who are outside of Jamaica is not going to, they are not going to turn it down. They may not come in the droves they expect it. But at least let's now sit down with the political opposition and make we look at how we can thread the needle over the next 3 to 4 years to find some solution to the problem that we currently have. I saw it going up, Bridget, because guess what? Having Cuba and Cubans that do this, for every Cuban when they're at Jamaica and practice medicine is a Jamaican who would have probably could have occupied that space there. But them not do it because we pay the Cuban them chopans money. So we don't need to pay doctor the right kind of money. Politicians just pay themselves a piss pot load of money a couple of years ago. I see the Prime Minister make so much money that he never even want to take fee and pay. At the other day, he decides, all right, I'm going to start take my pay now. Right? But them pay themselves millions of dollars, 200% increase. Right? And doctor and nurse can't get no money for pay them bills. But them have hug up some big money that politician carry home $1 million a month as pay. Million plus $2 million a month as pay. And some of the nurses them now make $2 million a year. Right? And I'm happy with that. Jamaica people happy with that. Because we have the Cuban them who them are earn a little thing and them no want to go back to communist Cuba because at least them can go take in a dance at Jamaica. Them can go down on the beach. Them can drive a nice car and live a little better life in Jamaica than where them there Cuba. Because, but them are suppress income in the medical profession in Jamaica by doing that. And our political class is comfortable with that over the years. Which is why we have not made sufficient effort to pay the people them properly. We talk about, you know, GDP per capita and we talk about income levels. We are our own worst enemies. And, you know, Mr. Holness needs to address the thing properly. And then let's look at how we're going to fix this over the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. It takes at least 5 years to graduate a doctor. So what to the people in the University of the West Indies now who study medicine over the last 2-3 years? Them are going to be a doctor anytime soon, in the next year or so. Them a doctor. What are you going to do with them? Right? We have to start to target those people to keep them in the system. One man said, oh, we're going to pay them. Listen, when FinSac did and the partisan government dash with billions of dollars, we did find $100 billion to cover the FinSac thing, right? So that the same politician them and them friend them business were able to be saved, right? We don't need $150 billion to make this right. We gone what? We gone $23 billion. I try to fix back Cornwall Regional Hospital. $23 billion. We could have licked down that hospital and take $23 billion and build 3 different hospitals for that money over the period where we have spent that kind of money. So we are dash with money and the politician them and them friend them and get rich and the people of Jamaica suffer because we look on the thing in the short run. If me all right, of all my mother's children, me love myself the best. So me look out for myself. And me earn 20 million a year. So boy, you know, doctor come and you don't pay doctor even like $5-6 million a year. You're afraid to pay them kind of money. For why? You want them to stay, you have to pay them properly. You want nurses to stay or to come back, you have to pay them. You have to equip the hospital. You can't have people are thief the hospital equipment. Man, I use the hospital tax-free facility, and I take it. I bring in dialysis machine and put it in a film business place. And the country taxpayers rob the country. The taxpayers of the country have nearly $40 million, and in a prison because the whole incestuous thieving relationship among the political class is what is mashing up Jamaica, right? I can understand the sentiments, but the uncertainty in Washington and the geopolitical. How could Jamaica have dealt with this? We just discussed that already. Tell me where else you want me to tell you. It don't have nothing to do with CARICOM. CARICOM don't have the little man from Donga, Jake's Road, that come stand up in front of them clinic to try to get a doctor to joke them with a medicine. And Jamaica have the problem. Jamaica need to deal with, forget about CARICOM, deal with the problem in a Jamaica. America man them say you don't need you can't have no more Cuban people down there. You can't have no Cuban people because if you choose to go the Cuban route, the man them gonna sanction Jamaica, right? So all of this bullshit argument where people are keep up. We spend almost trillions of dollars to put in tourism infrastructure, and if the man them lock off the gate on tourism, we look like we're going to the hotel and yam the grass on the place. The investment there already. It don't make no sense you cut off your hand them to try to spite somebody, right? We need to fix the problem. The problem is not going to be fixed by us maintaining Cuban doctors. The problem can only be addressed when Jamaica recognizes that it has to deal with the problem internally by making it worthwhile for the youngsters in Jamaica who go study medicine and nursing, see it worth their while to remain in Jamaica and practice those disciplines. That is how you fix the problem, right? So that when Mr. Uncle Sam tell you tell him, say, man, come kiss me ass because you don't have nothing over me. But to take a different position, and then we have Trump who have a problem for fire gunshot after people all over the world, right? Are you prepared to go through that kind of thing? We did it already in the 1970s, and the great Michael Manley himself admitted that I did crap. Him says so, and me says so. The great Michael Manley came back in 1989 and said that, right? We need to, no, we agree with me, Leon. We have to become a progressive, Jamaicans are progressive people, you know, so I know just, if me can come up, if me can say so, everybody recognize that that is the answer. The answer is we need to concentrate the resources to developing the medical personnel, the cohorts of people in Jamaica who learn the discipline, nursing, doctoring, whatever it is, and keep them at home. That's what we do. And don't afraid to pay them. The minute we change the way how we pay people, that's another problem in Jamaica. Jamaica Employers Federation, oh boy, if you raise people pay inflation. Listen, this is a program, I don't know, children may be listening, but I want my language can get very strong. We need to pay people livable wages, because if people are earn money, they're going to spend the money where they are earn it. It comes back into the economy, right? So this argument about wage push inflation is a bullshit argument, right? Nobody's going to work for nothing. There's no way a man going to spend 5 years, 6 years and study medicine, and when he done work, a lot of these doctors can't get no placement. The same, because I no young junior doctors, I tell you, them not on a job. But we have almost 300 and odd Cubans there in Jamaica. And the reason why that is because of the same 300 and odd Cuban, them are suppress the industry. And so the health authorities and the government, because them have this window where them slide on, where them pay these people these low wages to keep these Cubans in Jamaica. Them not doing anything to raise the level of salaries for doctors and nurses in Jamaica. so that people will want to be in that profession. If you don't make your country attractive, why do you think anybody will stay? Eh? That is the job of the politicians. And unfortunately, they're not doing it. Right? One speech about solidarity with Cuba and the Fallot side. Listen, something else we need to appreciate it, because the impression is being given that this is a Trump thing. This policy had actually started under Biden. Maybe people don't know that, right? All that happened is that Trump decides this is a low-hanging fruit. Plus, him have Marco Rubio, where I look a space we must want to be Prime Minister of Cuba, and so it's a low-hanging fruit. So you squeeze it, right? But it don't really matter what America foreign policy is all about. What you need to do is if you play cricket. Anybody who play cricket will know say sometimes a bowler come on and the bowler a bag of foolishness. You don't want to lick him out of the bowling attack, because if you lick him out of the bowling attack, they're going to put on the big fast bowler where you can't play him. And so you have a pressure with every ball when I bowl. So when you get a little chop hands bowler, you bowl a bad ball, you lick it for 4. You bowl a next bad ball, you knocks it down in front of you and make it look like, boy, good ball, good ball. You have to protect your wicket. Jamaicans and Jamaican politicians have a responsibility to protect them wicket. Protect the wicket down a yard. Right? You're protecting your wicket from the adverse reaction from governments like what is happening in the United States. And you're also protecting your wicket from those Jamaicans who get fed up with the thing and decide to watch them gone and go somewhere else. Them go build somebody else's country. Right? So again, remember I said earlier, the two things can be right at the same time. We don't have no army and nothing to take on America, so we're getting a thing. And we don't have enough money to stop a stale-bred cat. So what we need to do is work the thing in such a way so we find a balance. You go down the middle, straight. You don't have an argument with nobody, right? The only persons that the government of Jamaica have a responsibility to is the people of Jamaica. And so my argument is Andrew Holness ought to have gotten up and spoke clearly to the people of Jamaica. That announcement, first of all, Miss Lady get up and say, oh, we weren't pressured. Hey, listen, the dead down at Maypen Cemetery knows that America pressured Jamaica for run out the Cuban. Every dopey down at Maypen Cemetery know that. So what are you trying to prove? Because it look bad, say America not a friend. America is not a country that have friends. America have interests. And when whatever them think you are doing is not in line with their interests, they are going to call the shots because them in a position. So this friend thing, the man them tell you say that after you look around, they say, boy, when we take a stock, it's not worth it. Michael Manley would have loved if him did get a chance this time for have to face the bowling. Because he would have tell you, say, it don't make no sense you hide from this, This is a fact of your existence, right? And until the administration in America change, and it don't mean that the policy when you have an administration change, that the policy change. It's just that the incoming administration may be a little bit less aggressive in terms of the management and implementation of the policy. Because that was what was happening under Biden. Right? So Jamaica, we need to stop. We need to start look about Jamaica's business. Look on Jamaica. What is in the best interest of Jamaica? Let us stop this bullshitting where we talk political. We're not going to have another election for at least another 4.5 years. So it makes sense that we focus on doing things that will make a difference. We cannot be comfortable with the fact that for 53, 54 years, we are dependent on Cuban medical doctors to populate our hospital and clinic systems. Who benefit from that? How does Jamaica benefit? What are you saying to the people who are doctors? Because by virtue of the fact that you can pay these people smaller money, you're not going to be willing to look at the medical personnel and pay them at rates that are consistent with what is happening in other jurisdictions. That is Jamaica's problem, right? We have the same 30,000 youngsters who graduate from school every year. 26 to 30,000 of them graduate from fifth form in a secondary school. And a good percentage of those who could have passed some subject will go on to do nursing. And so the question is, 1,000 youngsters register for the nursing, but when them done graduate, 800 Ghana for it. That no make no sense. And don't tell me about them need to pay for the training, because that's a foolishness. Your job as political leaders and government is to make sure that the status quo is such that when the nurses and stuff and them graduate, they are able to find jobs, and that the places where them work, the hospital have the equipment where they need. It don't make no sense. We have hospital where one man can go take the hospital tax-free certificate and bring in medical equipment and change the address on the medical, on the invoice to show, say, me never know, say, the University Hospital of the West Indies did in a Kencut. Right? These are the problems where we have. And Jamaica people don't want to talk about it. Because what this does is that it deprives the industry, deprives the hospital services of the resources that allow them to run properly. I have a friend who tell me about this young lady who had a baby. And the baby has been in the hospital now for going almost 3 months because the baby have some breathing problems. A problem that a $5,000 piece of equipment, if the hospital had it, 5,000 American dollar, something that could have hold in a briefcase. If the hospital had that piece of equipment, that child would have been out of the hospital within 2 days of being born. And so this is how, at the granular level, the bandolo thieving behavior of people in Jamaica who can afford to are thieving Jamaica's resources to the detriment of poor people, right? So when we hear when them kind of issue come up, me have no sympathy, brethren. I mean, I go put my mouth on ground and talk, right? Mr. Holness have a responsibility to address the problem properly and tell the people of Jamaica where we're there and how we are going to work out there. That is your responsibility. And who don't like it, come fight me, right? We have an opposition that come in like Maypen and Calvary Cemetery, dead. Nothing. Me not hear nothing from with all of this kerfuffle going on. Nothing. Nothing. The purpose is to keep the government on its toes. Right? Nothing. We have to do better than this, brethren. Because it don't look good. It's not enough for us, boy, doctor get up and him come up, you would go to school, be a doctor, and by the time him get him piece of paper in him hand, him jump on a plane and go. The country have to fix that. The government have to fix that. Tell me what you think about what me think. Right? Tell me what you think about what me think. This has been the Jamaica mix. Me dep on the war part, so me make that clear. Because I think that we could have angled this better. Right? And no matter with this thing we are tearing on the government with the tax package, give me the alternatives or we will have. What kind of alternative? Because the government have to find the nearly $30 billion. Where them all get it from? I'm not about for the government, you know. Me just attack the facts. Right? Oppose for the sake of opposition and waste of time. I don't do them thing. I don't have time for that. Me is a man who may call it as we see it, right? And by the way, me see Miss Babs Green that talk about them over spend $70 billion build the stadium. Lick down that or carry the stadium go build somewhere else. A waste of money that. Because that the 70 billion will turn out to be almost 150 billion by the time. We could have taken that 150 billion and build 2 stadiums, right? Because everything in Jamaica, thief in and bandulu is it. Every year, 17 years, we are talking about reggae month. Reggae month, reggae month. 17 years. We don't have jack shit to show what reggae month do for Jamaica. None. We don't even have a little space where you take a broom and sweep it up and say, yeah, so I the reggae space in Jamaica. Not even that we have. But every month we have, every year we have February. Oh, February is reggae month, and we spend a bag of money with politicians and them friend them can thief the money for keep concert. But they wouldn't even build up a little stage somewhere and say, this is the reggae center. Don't start me up here. I'm telling you that. Right? Jamaicans need to demand more from a political representative. And people need to hold them accountable. Because otherwise, everybody will get off lightly. Mr. Holness, you need to address the Cuban medical crisis and tell the people what we are going to do over the next 5 years or how we are going to fix the problem. I mean, same as Mr. B, if you know, like the program, you know, let me see in the comment, in the comment section. And of course, you know, me just call it as we see it because it bothers me. Till the next time we meet again, I mean, same as Mr. B. Big up on yourself.